It sounds like the hype is real for several true freshmen who are really impressing right now in fall practice for the Georgia Bulldogs. We're going to talk more about that in depth over on dogpost.com very soon. But there's one guy who is really standing out, and that, of course, is five-star Elijah Griffin, one of the top prospects across the country from the 2025 class, 6'4", 315 pounds. He is really turning heads right now in Athens. From what we're hearing behind the scenes, he flashed a good bit during the spring, made about 1-2 tackles, and flashed a little bit during G-Day scrimmage back in April. But everyone we're talking to right now is saying, hey, the kid's real deal. The hype is real. He was a top 5 prospect in the country, and there is a reason why Kirby Smart had a lot to say about him during SEC Media Days in July. You can read more about that over on dogpost.com for free. But here's a quick summary about what Kirby had to say. He said, Elijah's been great. He had a great spring. You don't have to tell him something twice. He's very consistent. He's a great kid, and this is a guy who has been very good towards the beginning of his high school career from Pooler, Georgia, not Savannah, Pooler, Georgia, Savannah Christian. We're going to talk about his numbers in just a second, but this is a guy who is big, he's physical, he is explosive, great first step off the snap, just lives in the backfield, and is a game changer. That's something that I heard from opposing coaches when he was a sophomore. All of that to say that David Pollock had a lot to say about him on 92.9 The Game, the Atlanta radio sports network. Here's what David Pollock, who leads the program in sacks, in case you forgot, he was outstanding. Different type of player. He was more of a traditional 4-3 defensive end, whereas Elijah Griffin will be more of an interior guy. But Pollock said, I'm looking up at him by several inches, talking about meeting him for the first time, I believe, in fall camp. Could have been the spring, doesn't matter. Here are the quotes. I'm looking up at him by a few inches. He's 315 pounds. I couldn't have been more impressed with his maturity and his athletic ability. He hits 20 miles per hour on the GPS. That is not human. He is a truck. He is amazing to watch. He looks like he has a chance to be really special. He's got special written all over him. So this guy that is a Georgia legend, right? He is right there on the cusp of that Mount Rushmore of great Georgia Bulldogs, 3-time All-American, just a sack machine in the early 2000s for Georgia, first-round pick, and he knows what a great defensive lineman looks like. And again, a different type of defensive lineman, but he's saying this kid is big. He's got a great head on his shoulders. He's smart and is really pushing through fall camp. And I hear every single year, this is where the guys are tested the most. This is where the freshmen really get to know, hey, this is the real deal. This is college. It is very much a welcome to Georgia moment for a lot of young guys, but there have been several freshmen that we hear about this every year, right? This is kind of the time a few weeks before the season where you start to hear about which freshmen are standing out in fall practice, fall camp. And every year there's a few numbers, and this year is no different. Juan Gaston might be pushing for a starting job on the offensive lineman. I think Daniel Calhoun does as well, a young guy, but a second-year player who is making, has the potential to be a guy there. But as far as freshmen go, Juan Gaston Jr. is the guy we hear about. Of course, Elijah Griffin on the defensive line, Talon Taylor at wide receiver, Ethan Barbour at tight end, among others. We're going to see a lot of those, first and second-year players play against the first 2 cupcake games. So Marshall, Austin P, I probably should know off memory, but I know it's Marshall, then maybe Austin P or someone. Tennessee, Chattanooga, someone. You're going to see a lot of freshmen playing that game. If they play well, that's when you're going to start to see, okay, which of these freshmen are going to see the field in Knoxville against Tennessee. So that's something to keep an eye on. But Elijah Griffin is definitely that type of guy. They need these young players, especially on the defensive line, to step up and give them solid minutes. They don't have to play all game. They just need to be able to give them a few plays consistently at a time, 3 plays, 4 plays, 5 plays maybe at the most. But even in specific situations, if Elijah Griffin continues to impress, they can throw him out there for just a play or 2 if need be, or however long they need him out there. J.J. Hand is another promising freshman that they really like. He's still learning the game, but Elijah Griffin's been very good for a long time. Again, 6'4", 315 pounds. You could read all of this insight, full breakdown, more quotes over on dogpost.com. Make sure you're doing that. But Elijah Griffin's a guy we've been talking about for years. Even as a freshman at Savannah Christian, I had heard about him behind the scenes as one of the top young prospects in Savannah. Okay, now he's one of the best in the state, and boom, he's a top 5, top 3 player in the country. He is coming off a big senior season, just played in 9 games, but he made 53 tackles, 27 tackles for a loss, and 8.5 sacks in 9 games from a guy who played all over the line. He could play on defensive end in certain situations for Savannah Christian, but he is, well over 300 pounds now. So he's definitely an interior guy. So when you're making that many plays in the backfield, you have to be strong and explosive, and he definitely brings that to the table. He's batting balls down. He's getting after the quarterback, chasing him down, running him down. He plays like a big bear out there. He's going to attack, and he's going to make plays in the backfield. 27 tackles for a loss and 8.5 sacks, again, in just 9 games as a senior. And you look back at what he did as a sophomore and a junior, and those numbers aren't even that impressive. But over his career at Savannah Christian, he made 301 tackles, 96 tackles for a loss, 44 sacks. So he's productive. He's got the size. He's got the athleticism. This is how you draw it up on as a dominant interior defensive lineman. And I'm not saying he's going to be the next Jalen Carter, because Jalen Carter is one of the greatest defensive linemen to ever play at Georgia. Devonta Wyatt left his mark. Obviously, Jordan Davis, heavier and probably not exactly the same position as Elijah Griffin, but he's obviously towards that Mount Rushmore of Georgia defensive players for sure. And this guy has the potential to be that next game-changing guy on the defensive line. You have to have him. And you've got David Pollock out here saying this guy has a chance to be something really, really special. All of them, the maturity standpoint, the athleticism, again, off the charts. And there's a reason why Georgia wanted this young man from the very beginning. I think it was in 8th grade he got that Georgia offer, and he got every other offer in the book too. And he could have probably taken more money, from what I hear behind the scenes, to go elsewhere. I think Miami was a team pushing hard for him. I think Clemson at one point was very much in the mix. I think Alabama was in the mix, but Georgia, South Carolina for sure was in the mix with him for a long, long time. There was a point where I was told that it could come down to Georgia and South Carolina, but I think other schools came in a little later. But Georgia was always there. They were always consistent. They had a great relationship with him, and Kirby Smart is raving about him at SEC Media Days. And if you ask anyone who's watching practice consistently or around the program at all, you bring his name up and everyone just starts kind of smiling and grinning hard, because this kid can absolutely play. So absolutely one of the true freshmen I think will play early in the season. But J.J. Hand is a guy that Georgia fans should not forget about. He wasn't highly ranked. He was just the 3-star from Germany, played 1 year in California, I believe, then made his way to Georgia. But he's 300 plus pounds as well, 6'6", long, a really high ceiling, because he's got a long way to go to get better as a player. But he's a young pup. He's raw, but he has a chance to bring more depth as well. And I'm not saying Elijah Griffin's going to start by any means. I think he could. It wouldn't be surprising. I'm not saying he's going to. Day one at least, but he's going to work his way into the lineup. I think this is a guy who's going to play more and more. And again, he doesn't have to be out there all the time. In certain situations, they may not need him, but when his number is called, because it is going to be called, I think he's getting good enough and impressing the staff enough to where he's going to earn some significant minutes this fall. But again, he 315 pounds, dude moves like a cat. He really does move like he's 280 pounds. And there's a lot of people who are high on him for a reason. He's got the 5-star film to back it up. But again, you can watch all of his highlights from high school and more in-depth analysis, because we've been writing about this guy for years and years. So everyone on this channel, this is not surprising at all, but I definitely wanted to jump on and share David Pollock's quotes on him, because he is, that guy knows what he's talking about. Former ESPN analyst, knows the game of football, knows Georgia football, knows the standard, and he knows what a playmaking defensive lineman looks like. And he said Elijah Griffin has the chance to be special. He's a truck. He's amazing to watch. I mean, the highest praise that you could ask for is what David Pollock just gave Elijah Griffin this week. So Kirby's talking about him. David Pollock's talking about him. Insiders are raving about him. And I do think this is a guy who is going to play early and often this season and possibly turn into one of the best defensive linemen in college football. Maybe not at the end of this year, but next year and beyond. I think he has the potential to be that type of player, and that's what Georgia desperately needs on the defensive line. They need a game changer. This guy could be it, but right now, David Pollock says that he has a chance to be really, really special, something that Georgia fans should be thrilled to hear about. You can read more about this over on dogpost.com. Thanks for watching. Hope you check us out. The season's right around the corner. Make sure you are on the website and on this channel for the latest Georgia Bulldog team and recruiting news on a daily basis. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you over on the website.